the limited communication means today provided by the social media are such that you are not able to give a very comprehensive assessment of what the Dr. Arif Alvi is all about. He just watched a cricket match, but his other philosophies are probably a few hundred pages long. So you are limited by what you can say, and I believe that teaching embodies all those skills by which knowledge has been given, borrowed, learned over centuries, and then communicate to the people in a manner where they are understood well. In the past few years, in the past 7 or 8 years, I've been looking at the surveys on education, particularly done by Acer. And for a long time we looked at the structures. For example, a few years we looked at buildings, we looked at washrooms, we looked at the ability of whether there were walls around the schools, how many schools was there, how many teachers were there, how much money was being spent. But then a few years ago, we challenged the concept what was going on, because there was enough money going into education. For example, the provinces were spending between 22 to 28% on education. And I believe the provinces may not be able to spend more on education than what was being done. So the focus should have and now has shifted to quality. Because what you are spending must be productive in the sense that what you intend to do, that should happen. For example, in dentistry and medical education, we started maybe about a few decades ago looking at the competencies of the graduating doctor, for example. And based on those competencies, the syllabi and the curriculum were devised based on those competencies to be low. So the intent is to graduate a student, for example, in metric, going through all the middle school and the higher school, he should be good in maths, science, and whatever terminologies you have. Therefore, the improvement capacity building of teachers at that level, Shafkat Saab, and then even at the higher level is very important. In every institution, what happens in government service, there's an inertia. People get employed, and after that, they just move up based on their seniorities. And I believe that system has to change based on competencies and seniority. There should be some measure by which people should improve their lot themselves as well as the lot of others. But everything, in education, everything is metric. In other things, everything is not metrics. For example, in your own children, everything is not about metrics. It's about love, it's about compassion, it's about the ability of every child to do something. And if you employ or use only the metrics of education and success in life, probably that is not what humanity is all about. There is so much of love involved everywhere, and timing when someone achieves something. And the only metric should not be of success, and the only metric should not be of the fact that person is educated well enough. There are other metrics which are involved, and there is a very good book, The Metric Society, written by a very recently Chinese gentleman, which has been translated into English, and that challenges the concept. But as far as education is concerned, and what you produce, that has to go through metrics. The metrics could be of universities, as you struggle hard, of the universities, the ranking of universities, etc. But metrics does come in. At the same time, this concept of pure metrics is being challenged in a humane and a human society. There's a recent book called Deep Medicine, where it is being talked, for example, a radiologist in his life looks at maybe about 100,000 or 200,000 chest x-rays. Imagine an app or an artificial intelligence program which looks at 500 million x-rays. Imagine a radiologist's experience of looking at about 100,000, 200,000 x-rays in life, and imagine artificial intelligence looking at 500 million x-rays. The ability of that program to be able to diagnose an issue will be far greater than a radiologist. But what is happening in medicine also, the human contact, and that is where education comes in, where you as people are involved. The human contact, the human ability to convince a student to learn and to be excited about learning will never become different. and different methodologies may come, artificial intelligence, as like Shafqat Sahab has mentioned, with deep neuronal networks and convoluted neuronal networks. Artificial intelligence will start understanding a lot of stuff which the human mind, with its capacity and the judgment calls which we make, we will not be able to understand all that. But at the same time, there is a difference. There is a machine and there is a person. Garry Kasparov, when he lost the match against Deep Blue in 1999, I think, he made a statement. He wrote a book afterwards. 3 years after his loss, he wrote a book. He said that what I play against is a human, and what the machine played against me was just a calculative situation. The machine did not know whether my hand trembled when I put my hand on the stop clock, or whether I perspired during this. And at the same time, he made a very interesting statement. He said that the thing which makes me happy is the machine will not be happy that the machine won. So there's always a human factor which is important, and I think that while you learn to be able to talk more, to be able to communicate more, is something which the National Academy will provide. And let me give you, but the tools have to be of tomorrow. I'll come to the tools factor later, but let me inform you that over the last few months I've been talking about that the nation has to be built not by the Prime Minister alone, not by the government itself, but by the people. And the nation has to be built. For example, the biggest message of social revolution came from the member of the Prophet ﷺ, or came from the mosque. The mosque should be a part of the social change which Pakistan should bring about. At the same time, every institution should be contributing, whether it is the television medium, for prevention and health, for example, or for communication of ideas, for educating the masses to come up. And recently, I called, and I believe the social media is become a very strong tool for tomorrow for communication. Imagine, let me give you an example. The social media, the telephone captures an incident and it is immediately news. The television medium takes about 3 or 4 hours to understand that and to be able to express that. The print medium comes around 24 hours later and then gives news. So therefore, the print medium today is no more a medium for news, although they are called newspapers, but they are not. They are a medium for opinion on news, but not news itself. Television is still news, but the social medium is taking over completely, and there's a president of a big country in the world who only works on Twitter, as far as communicating his philosophy, or as far as communicating what he wants to do and what he is doing. But I believe bigger than that, for you to understand, that when I call this meeting of some institutions, government institutions, that I want the social media to bring social change in Pakistan, they came with the tools of the older era. They came with the tools of the press. And the thinking and the spectacles they had on their eyes was through the press phenomenon, how to handle social media. And they wanted to recruit people in social media. And I said, don't recruit anybody who's older than 30 in social media. There's a generational gap. And people will not understand what is happening at that level. My grandson came to me and he said, he's about 16 years old. He said, Dada, I don't work on Twitter. My friends don't work on Twitter. They don't work on Facebook. They work on Instagram. So I was suddenly shocked by the fact that what I thought was a social media, and my grandson comes, that he has nothing to do with Twitter and Facebook, he only works on Instagram. So what I'm saying is, today things are happening faster than you think. If you bring tools of yesterday to solve the problems of today, I think that's the wrong approach. And therefore, I would encourage you to read a few books. The Homo sapiens by Noah Hariri, then the Homo Deus, and then the recent book, which is probably published only 2 months ago, and I'm reading that right now. It's 21 Lessons of the 21st Century. And it is surprising how quickly the world is changing. You and I I, probably older than you, went through black and white television, then computers, then social media, and every process took about 2 or 3 decades for us to ingest. Today, the tools and the changes which are coming are so fast that everything will happen within a year and things will change within years. So therefore, and similarly, I think in the world a big change is happening. There were 3 ideologies in the 30s, for example, fascism, liberalism and communism. And after 1945, fascism almost got buried, and the 2 remained, which was liberalism and communism. And communism lost the battle in the 80s. And today liberalism and democracy has been there. But that concept has also been challenged almost totally. While global economy and globalization was the mantra of the last 2 decades, the economies in the world are moving away. The big economies are going towards nationalism, towards walls, towards restricting themselves within countries. So the challenges of the future are tremendous. I cannot even manage or be able to communicate to you how big are the challenges and how quick you have to change.
नाज़रीन, आप गुफ्तगू सुन रहे थे सदर मुमलिकत डॉक्टर आरिफ अलवी की, जो कि नेशनल एकेडमी ऑफ हायर एजुकेशन की इफ्तिताही तकरीब से खिताब कर रहे थे। और उनका ये कहना था कि किसी भी शोबे में तरक्की के लिए मनसूबाबंदी बेहद ज़रूरी है। उनका ये कहना था कि पाकिस्तान के आला मुस्तकबिल के हवाले से पुरउम्मीद हूँ। हुकूमत मुल्क में आला तालीम के फ़रोग़ के लिए पुरअज़्म है। ख़ास तौर पर कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स के हवाले से उनका ये कहना था कि लोगों को अपनी बात मौसर अंदाज में समझाना ही असल इल्म है। ताज़ा तरीन में फ़िल वक्त इतना ही। बाखबर रहने के लिए हमारे साथ रहिए।